This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
He's Greg, I'm Nick. This episode is brought to you by Fanduel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. New customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet, and AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. Well, Greg, Patriots lose on Sunday night. We all know that by now. Last week, I was very surprised. I was maybe even shocked by your prediction as we headed into this game. You were very confident that the Patriots would win and that their offense would be able to move the ball rather easily. Of course, those things didn't necessarily happen, especially consistently on the offensive end. Why were you wrong about this one?
Well, Nick, it's a good question, and I was definitely wrong. I watched the Dolphins film against the Chargers, and I watched how the Chargers basically went through the Dolphins defense, especially on the ground, over 200. I think it was 233 yards. And the Chargers, they're a finesse team. They don't even run the ball that well. I mean, Austin Eckler's good and, all that. But, what I saw on film from the Dolphins defense, I was like, well, the Patriots can come out and, I was expecting them to get their two guards back, which they did. Didn't have Trent Brown, but, I figured, Calvin Anderson was basically, he played decently well the first week, and, he'd be better with being in the second game, and they'd figure out left tackle. And no Jalen Phillips in the game. Of course, that didn't happen until later in the week, but that was even a bonus, a cherry on top, that Miami's best edge player, front seven player, was out of the game. And I thought that the Patriots would be able to impose their will and run the ball. And I thought that running the ball and play action would be a big part of this game for the team. And it started off, well enough. I mean, they came out in 13 personnel, 3 tight ends for about the first 3 plays of the game. And, they ran a short pass for 5 yards, short pass for 4 yards, a run for 6 yards, and a run for 8 yards. I'm like, okay, well, this is what I expected. And then everything fell apart. I mean, you even had a little bubble screen to Demario Douglas, nice play, 9 yards. Here they are in Miami territory. They're driving. And then all of a sudden, Cole Strange gives up a -2 run. Cole Strange gives up a sack in 1.7 seconds, and Cole Strange isn't good on the screen, and all of a sudden they're punting, and it was just it looked like Bill O'Brien was scared off by the offensive line, that Cole Strange wasn't ready to play. When it wasn't great in this game either, and I just thought, as far as I thought the Patriots offense would be able to do some things, and they couldn't run the ball after that drive. There was no play action in the game, and they basically got owned up front. I mean, credit to Vic Fangio. He made a lot of adjustments. They did a lot of slanting in this game, which the Patriots weren't ready for up front. There were a lot of Patriots offensive linemen on the ground, which is never a good thing to see, and I don't think I've ever seen that before out of this group. They just got whooped up front, and then defensively, I knew that they would limit the Dolphins and Tyreek Hill, and they wouldn't give up big plays, but I didn't expect the game plan that they came out with, which was basically like, it was almost a version of prevent defense with 3 deep safeties most of the time. They just gave up the underneath stuff. Their defensive line got whooped by the Dolphins offensive line, something else I did not expect. And, I just thought, for the most part, I thought that the Patriots were pretty inept. Yeah, it was close. They had a chance at the end of the game, but I don't really think it was all that close. I thought Miami did exactly what they wanted to. I think they felt in control the whole game. And, to me, it was a hugely disappointing result for the Patriots. I thought that they had opportunities in this game. I just think where they are right now, Nick, offensively, they can't block. They have nothing at skill position. They benched Demario Douglas, which was a freaking joke. And then defensively, we've seen this before with them against the Bills, that they're just like, well, we don't want to give up any big plays. Josh Allen is just too good. You can now put the Dolphins into that mix now, where the Patriots are just like, well, we're not going to force the issue. We're not going to try to make any plays. We're just hoping the other team makes mistakes. And, the only thought I had watching this was, thank God Aaron Rodgers got hurt, because who knows what they would have done against them. But, 2 out of the 3 teams in the AFC East, they don't even try to compete on defense now. And, I just, they're in a rough place right now. I mean, I'm glad they're getting Zach Wilson this week, but, it's just tough for them offensively. They don't have an identity. They don't know what to cling to. And defensively, if they don't feel they have the advantage, they just sort of hang back. And that's a dangerous place for a team to be.
Yeah, just 2 things to take away in the big picture here from this game. Offensively, the offensive line, man. I've said this time and time again, you and I have talked about it. Offensive line, if your O-line stinks, you're behind the 8 ball. And here's the thing, I couldn't care less who the quarterback is if your O-line is this bad. There's not many quarterbacks in the league. We're talking about even some of the best quarterbacks in the league that would be able to overcome some of this offensive line stuff we're seeing. You have no run game. You have no pass protection. You're trying to run quick pass game. Just think about this. Your O-line is not pass protected, so you have to run quick pass game. But then the quote-unquote weapons that Mac has right now, they're not quick pass game weapons. They're not Tyreek Hill. They're not Jalen Waddle. They would have to run some semblance of what you see from Miami, but they don't have the guys on the outside. They don't have the weapons to run that kind of offense. So it's just all kind of a mess right now. And when you don't have explosive weapons and you're constantly in tough down and distances, which they are because you can't run the ball, which means 2nd and long and 3rd and long. And then you're giving up sacks, which means, down and distance is a nightmare. You don't have the kind of players with the explosivity that will get you those 15, 20-yard chunks. So it all kind of rolls downhill from the offensive line. And defensively, Greg, I agree with you. I just thought they lacked aggression. I thought they lacked aggression. I thought they lacked physicality. I thought they lacked urgency. And I understand if you're going to tell me you're going to lay back and the whole idea is, hey, we'll let you move the ball between the 20s, the old bend, don't break defense, that's fine. But in the first half, when Miami gets into the red zone, you cannot give up 2 touchdowns out of those 3 drives because you're not bending, not breaking, you're breaking. And that's why you're down 17-3 at the half. All right, so that's just some overall thoughts. I want to, and we'll get more into an in-depth discussion about the offense, Greg, but I just want your general thoughts on how Mac Jones played in this game. Do you think he played some winning football on Sunday night?
Absolutely. I think that through 2 weeks, Mac Jones has played winning football. And to piggyback off of your point about, the weaponry and things like that, because we viewed things in a certain way for so long, when Brady was here and the whole scope of the team. But, it's a different NFL now. And you really have to do one of 2 things. Either you need the elite transitional, just elevate everybody, elite quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, or you need to go get weapons. I mean, people will pick apart this game from Mac Jones, and there are certainly plays that he missed. And this is sort of where I was after they didn't get DeAndre Hopkins. And it wasn't really about DeAndre Hopkins. It was just about not investing, not giving Mac anything to work with.
Right.
And, also, my column on this season, when I picked them 7-10 before the season, I said they have the margin of error is just too small for this team. And, Mac made a lot of really good plays in this game. His mistakes get poured over. And that's solely because he has no margin for error. Like, he has to be perfect for this team to score in the high 20s or 30s. I mean, I went through it and I was looking at Tua, and I wrote down in Tua, I probably had Mac for, I had Mac for 5 throws that I questioned, including the interception, which I split with him and Devontae Parker. Tua had similar. Tua had an interception, great catch by Gonzalez, but Tyreek Hill was open on the play. Tua underthrew him, threw way too much air. If he puts that ball in a line to Tua, it's probably a touchdown. He made a bad throw, but because he has all these weapons, because he has scheme, because he has an offensive line that didn't really allow him to be touched in this game, everybody's talking about how great Tua is and how he's an MVP candidate. But, Mac Jones basically has the same game as Tua, but because he has no offensive line and he has no weapons, Mac gets criticized. And I don't think he's getting a ton of criticism in this game after this game. I'm sure there are people doing that, but Mac Jones, dating back to last season, I was going through my evaluations, and I think that, this is the 5th straight game dating back to last season that he's played positive football according to my ratings, and it's 6 of 7. His completion percentage above expectation this week was 6th best in the league. He was only supposed to complete, I think, like 66, 67% of his passes, and he completed 73%. Mac is not the issue on this team. It's what Bill has done to him. And I really think this entire season, and we've talked about this before, after the DeAndre Hopkins thing, that this season is a litmus test and basically a measurement on, can Bill construct a team in today's NFL? And through 2 games, the answer is no, because he just beefs up. He's done what he's always done. Beefs up defense, beefs up special teams, says offense, just take care of the ball, make a few plays, make some points, and we'll be fine. Through 2 games, that is not good enough. And they can't, Mac Jones can't play perfect. No quarterback is going to play perfect. Tua didn't play perfect. But if you surround them with enough stuff and even speed, taking Demario Douglas off the field, if whatever, that makes things easier, opens things up. Tua threw the ball in 2 seconds. It was the lowest time to release in the league this year because the Patriots were hanging back and they were so afraid of the speed that there were open guys all over the place. And so what the Patriots are trying to do offensively, it looks like a losing proposition. And, we'll see, how things go. The offensive line will get better. They'll get healthier. They'll get Tyquan Thornton back. Demario Douglas won't be in the doghouse, hopefully. But still, what you talked about, some of the pass concepts. I mean, running a bubble screen to Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, who are we kidding? I mean, the week before it was Ezekiel Elliott. Like, you might as well put me out there. I mean, these guys aren't running away from anybody. So they are talent deficient on offense, and it just makes everything harder.
You are preaching to the choir, my man. We're not only in the same church, you and I are sitting in the same pew, and we are rubbing elbows together. Everything you just said is absolutely how I feel. It's mostly how I felt last week when they played the Eagles. It's mostly how I feel when you look back at last year. And by the way, here's a little bit of a tease. Nick Catto Show podcast. I'm going to dive deep into Mac this week and actually the comeback theory that people have thrown out there and fans. And there's a contingent that say like, oh, Mac's incapable of coming back. You might be surprised when you look back at his rookie season and you look at the facts in those games that they lost that were close. I'll have some of that on my pod, but it's what you see on Sunday night, Greg. Here's the problem. Everybody wants to boil it down to the quarterback, and it's just utterly ridiculous. Every time the Patriots get down early in the game, it's, because they don't have a quarterback that can really get it going early on. They can't put points up on the board. When they get down and Mac Jones can't score, 3 second-half touchdowns, it is somehow on Mac Jones. And the way it's handled is he gets like 90% of the blame. Perfect example on Sunday night. This team at the half was down 17-3 by really no fault of Mac Jones. Go back and watch the game. You're down 17-3 at the half because your offensive line stunk. Greg highlighted Cole Strange on that first drive. He single-handedly ruined that drive by himself. So congratulations to Cole on that one. I know he might not be ready, but that's what happened. You had the Pop Douglas fumble when the Patriots were moving the ball. That is certainly not on Mac Jones. And the defense. The defense gave up 17 points in the first half. They gave up 237 total yards. Miami was 3 for 5 on third down. They were 2 for 3 in the red zone. The reason why you were down 17-3 at the half was not because your quarterback play. It was because of offensive line play, the fumble, and your defense did not do well enough in the red zone. Those are the facts, whether you like it or not. And Mac has become this scapegoat. It's just so easy to throw Mac under the bus because you just go back and think about Brady. And it's been unfair for this guy since he stepped into Foxborough. It really has been.
To piggyback to add fuel to your fire. I mean, this so far through 2 games, this reminds me a lot of 2019 with Brady, when Brady didn't have much to work with. The offensive line wasn't that good. And, they were 8-0 at one point, but we know that, that was the schedule. I mean, if the Patriots had those cream puffs to start the season, they would be this group would be 8-0 as well. But, Brady was miserable because he knew the Patriots didn't have it. And, they're just right back in the same. Brady couldn't rescue that group. Mac Jones can't rescue this group. And, it's going to take, they are going to have to be perfect on offense. They're going to have to run the crap out of the ball. They're going to have to incorporate more play action. And the other thing I wanted to add, I think a lot of Bill O'Brien, and I do think he's really good. And I think the game plans that you're seeing, I'm sure they're going to get criticism. And, it looks a lot like Matt Patricia last year, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of that, which I don't disagree with. But he's smart enough to know. He knows. He's like, we can't block any of this stuff. But I do think that Billy is a little bit too in love with some of the concepts that he had at Alabama, the RPOs, the quick game, and stuff like that. That stuff works and looks a lot better when you're at Alabama with Alabama talent compared to what you're playing against. And right now, the Patriots offense is the other side of that coin.
Right.
They're Troy, they're Auburn, they're, whoever gets outclassed by Alabama. That's what Billy is working at, a talent deficiency, just like Mac Jones is. And there's no other way out of it other than they're going to have to attain perfection on offense. And that's a tough way to go.
Yeah, you can't ask any quarterback in the league to be flawless. You watch Patrick Mahomes. I think it was 3 years ago. I don't quite remember which year it was, but Patrick Mahomes, by a significant margin, led the league in interceptions that were dropped. He made a ton of mistakes like 3 years ago. I think it was Tyreek's last year or something. I'm trying to remember. But the point is, quarterbacks make mistakes. Every week, quarterbacks will make mistakes. Every week, quarterbacks will miss guys that are open. Not every week will they turn the ball over, but they will throw their share of interceptions. Guess what? If you're waiting for Mac Jones to be flawless, it's unreasonable expectations. You'll be waiting for the rest of your life because nobody is perfect. And I know you just witnessed the GOAT for 20 years, and the guy was as near perfect as you can be for most of the time. But as Greg pointed out, 2019, it's a comparison that I made last week on my pod. When you look at, one possession games, Brady in 2019 in one possession games, his statistics, if you look at it, and I won't dive into the statistics, but trust me or listen to the pod I did last week. When you look at one possession games and you compare Mac Jones in one possession games throughout his Patriots career through the Eagles game, and you compare the one possession statistics of Brady in 2018, 2019, guess what? Mac Jones has better stats than Brady does. Doesn't mean he's better quarterback than Brady. I'll say that loudly. It's obvious. I'd be delusional if I thought that. Send me somewhere to get looked at. The point is, Brady's stats were close to Mac Jones's stats in one possession games because of 2019. Brady was so good in 2018 in one possession games. When you compare it to 2019, he fell off pretty much a cliff. I think he completed like 55% of his passes. I think something crazy, like off a cliff. And it wasn't Brady because we saw Brady go to Tampa. Brady didn't lose it. And everybody, not everybody, but, some said back in 2019, like, oh, Brady's washed. Brady's done. Look, he's falling apart. He's not the same guy. Well, was it the quarterback or was it what Brady had to work with in 2019? And that's continued from 2019 all the way until right now. The quarterback, no matter who it was, whether it was Brady, Cam, or Mac, they haven't had enough. We'll have more on Mac. We'll also have more on Bill O'Brien because there are a few questions I have for Greg. But first, let's talk about our friends at Fanduel. I had a pretty rough week. I had some tough breaks on Sunday. Honestly, I really did. I won a couple of them. I had Ramondre at like 50 yards rushing or something, and I had Mike Gesicki over 15 yards receiving. And I did that 2-leg parlay with those two things. But I came up just short a couple of other bets. But FanDuel is a fantastic place to check out. I have won more than I have lost there by far. Greg, tell the fine people about our friends at FanDuel.
Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. I love those little suckers, those little bonus bets. It's like free money. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right. Just the two more things about Mac, Greg. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if did you watch the Saints game last night at all?
A little bit, but I saw your tweet and I don't disagree. That dime pass, the Mac Jones to Kendrick Bourne that Kendrick doesn't catch, but who was it on the Saints?
Olave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you didn't see it, I don't know if you can go back and watch it, anybody listening or watching us here on YouTube. But it's just really a simple point, but I think it crystallizes what Greg has brought up and what we've talked about here about the difference between weapons, like top tier weapons and guys that are good but not great. Mac had the throw to Kendrick Bourne down the sidelines on Sunday night. It was a perfect bucket throw, and Bourne doesn't come up with it. If you watch last night, Derek Carr throws a down the sideline pass, not nearly as good of a pass as Mac's was, but he makes a good enough throw and allows his receiver, who is Chris Olave, a guy who was a star at the Ohio State, and I believe he was a first-round pick. Yeah, he was a first-round pick a couple of years ago for the Saints, and he makes a spectacular catch. That is the difference. You're working with Kendrick Bourne versus Chris Olave. In Bourne, people said, oh, well, he got his wrist grabbed. Fight through it. And we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in a little bit, Greg, with Devontae Parker on Sunday night. Fight through it. That happens almost all the time. Defensive backs are always grabbing an arm or grabbing a wrist or grabbing a little tug of the jersey. You've got to fight through and make the play for your quarterback. And I just thought this was fascinating too, Greg. Just reading over some of the rating stuff that you mentioned earlier here on the pod about how Mac has played consistently good football over the last 6 or 7 games. Put that in perspective, Greg, because Mac's played well the last 7 games, 6 out of the last 7. But we're now looking at a football team with your quarterback playing well. That's what, 2-7 in the last 9 games? Mm-hmm. It ain't the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, look, Nick, I would say, and I made this point, I think, in our email. If you put Mac Jones on the Dolphins are 2-0. Absolutely. You put him on the Eagles. The Eagles are 2-0 as well. I mean, I think that, and just going through it, just so people know. So let me give you the plays that I did not like from Mac. So there was the drive before halftime. There was a 3rd and 9 to Devontae Parker, and it was incomplete. And I think they had to kick a field goal there. Now, I didn't like that. Mac stared down Devontae Parker, and do I think Devontae Parker could do a little bit more? And it was on his hands, and it was actually in a good spot because he threw it away from the safety, so it was a pretty accurate throw. But what Mac needs to do there, in my opinion, is he has to know that that's going to be there backside. He needs to keep the safety off. look off the safety, look right, and then come back and fire that ball in there. He could use a little bit more juice there. There was a throw to so one play, let's talk about Kendrick Bourne for a second. So Kendrick Bourne only played I think 38 of 74 snaps.
Yep.
And this is just to reiterate the point, and we made it last week, there's a reason why Kendrick Bourne doesn't play on this team. I mean, when Demario Douglas gets benched, yet the Patriots are still going with 12 personnel, which is a joke, and they're not putting Kendrick Bourne out there. They don't have a lot of confidence in him. And there's reason to. There was a play where Mack threw it slightly out of bounds. Kendrick caught it, but it was just out of bounds near the goal line. That play was absolutely infuriating to me, the way Kendrick Bourne ran that route. And I think Collinsworth said something about it that, he turned it up too early. So Kendrick, basically that play, and they had the coverage they wanted. It was man-to-man. We've seen Wes Welker, Julian Edelman run this same sort of seam pass. Gronk, same sort of thing. And basically what's supposed to happen is he's supposed to sprint up right on the cornerback and maybe give a head fake to the inside and then go around him. And if he gives that head fake, the cornerback might hesitate, or that's the idea. And Kendrick Bourne might have been wide open for a touchdown. But instead, Kendrick Bourne runs out, and when he's supposed to give a head fake, he turns around and looks at Mack and just keeps running like this, which of course slows him down. I mean, it's so bad. It's so bad. But, Mack could have made a better throw there. There was another throw to Kendrick Bourne. There were 3 throws to Kendrick Bourne. That I had minus throws for Mac Jones. It just must be a Kendrick Bourne and Mac thing where, this is just how bad Kendrick is. And the interception, look, was he covered? Yes. Is Xavier Howard good? Yes. Most of the time he stunk last year. Do I think it was a poor decision to throw the ball there? No. Could it have been thrown a little bit differently? Maybe a little bit higher on the sideline where only Devontae Parker could get it if he makes a play? Yes. But here's the problem. Devontae Parker was beaten 5 steps into the route when he allowed himself to be shoved out of bounds. He's out of the play then. All right, should Mack have just thrown it out of bounds at that point? Maybe. Mack might have had Hunter Henry in the middle, but even there was a safety over the top lurking. I'm sorry, with the way this roster is constructed, Devontae Parker, who you just gave an extension to, who is supposed to be Mr. 50-50 ball, he has one-on-one coverage with the cornerback. You've told Mac Jones to throw that ball, basically, by everything you've done with Devontae Parker. He's your quote-unquote best wide receiver. Well, I mean, Juju gets paid more, but best boundary wide receiver. And I'm sorry, Devontae cannot allow himself to be shoved out of bounds. You see a wide receiver get shoved out of bounds, that's a fail for the wide receiver.
Yep.
He's played against Xavier Howard. They used to be teammates. Howard used to kick the crap out of him in practice all the time. Devontae should know how he's going to play that. And Devontae comes off, and he has outside leverage. You're going to have to do something to make room. Devontae's got to put a shoulder in down there, and I think Mac's expecting Devontae to be physical, to not get owned, to not get pushed out of bounds, and then all of a sudden, stop and jump in front of him and make a catch. That's how that ball was thrown. And so I don't think it was an egregious interception. I split it between the two of them. I lean a little bit more towards Parker, where, he at least has to break that up so it's not an interception. But his punk ass got pushed out of bounds. When you see a receiver get pushed out of bounds, you've lost. And coaches will tell you that's not being physical enough. And Devontae Parker's got to be more physical than that, and he can't allow himself to be ridden out of bounds. That's a fail for the wide receiver.
Didn't love the interception by Mac. Didn't love the decision by Mac in that situation, the timing of the decision. And he could have made a better throw. But I also agree with you on Parker. Dude got bodied. He got bodied on that route. He got abused. And Mac, when you're a quarterback and you're throwing the football to your, as Greg said, your perceived number one receiver. You're trusting that guy. Like, it's so funny to me that people want quarterbacks to trust receivers and their pass catchers that we're saying a lot now because tight ends aren't receivers, blah, blah, blah. And then when a quarterback trusts one of their pass catchers and the pass catcher doesn't give the quarterback 100%, again, we go back to it's the quarterback's fault. Bill O'Brien, just some things Greg wanted to say that I wanted to say about him and get your thoughts on. I'll run down the list here quickly. I thought they got very predictable on Sunday night between the screen game and also under center. They ran the football the vast majority of the time when Mac was under center. We didn't see much play action, and I understand offensive line has something, if not a lot, to do with that. So a little bit predictable for me from O'Brien. I also thought the situational play calling, I wanted your thoughts on 2 play calls that I hated in this game, actually 3. So it's 2nd and 9,
what quarter?
Late in the second quarter, and they decide to run the football. I think it was Ezekiel Elliott, and it went nowhere. Or it might have been a 2nd and 8, and then it got to 9 because they lost the yard.
2nd and 8, Ezekiel Elliott -1.
Hated that play call. 2nd and 9. Again, your run game is starting to fall apart. You're just begging for a 3rd and long when you run the ball there. But I had a much bigger issue, and this was, to me, I want to hit 2 things here, Greg. Number one, I want to talk about Bill O'Brien's play calling, and then I want to talk about Bill Belichick's decision making.
Mm-hmm.
The drive in the 3rd quarter, I believe it was the first drive in the 3rd quarter, and you're moving the ball. You get down to the Miami 43. You have a 2nd and 1 from the Miami 43. You have all of the playbook at your disposal at that point. You can take a shot. You can do something fun and creative. You can do whatever you want. 2nd and 1 from the Miami 43. You run the football stuffed. Now you're looking at 3rd and 1-ish. And they ran a toss play. That lost 3 yards. 2nd and 1 from the Miami 43. Back-to-back runs. You lose 3 yards. Okay? Before I get to the Belichick part of this, just your thoughts on those play calls I mentioned.
So, I definitely I had those 2 plays circled as sort of crucial points in the game. Very similar to the opening drive where they're moving the ball and right around the Miami 40, or then they just disintegrate. I like your thought on I would have to look at the film to see if Mac checked out of that play. There might have been a shot play called, but then Mac saw the defense and he checked to a run. I'm not sure about that, but I do like the thought just in general of 2nd and 1, take a shot. Like you're at the plus 42, like you have trouble screwing. Yeah, let's go for a shot. Now I put that stuff on Stevenson. I thought there was he sort of pitter pattered in the backfield. And it wasn't.
Is that because he doesn't
well.
trust the offensive line, Greg? Is he? I think he's dancing a decent amount this year so far. The first 2 games. Is that the O-line? He just doesn't trust in front of him.
Yeah, I think what's where he's supposed to be running the ball is just not there, and I think that because of the lack of continuity and lack of practice with all these guys, he's indecisive. Where that play. He just needs to hit it up there. He needs to pick up the 1st down. Now, the 4th down play, I would be interested. I haven't gotten an answer on this yet. So I don't love toss plays in general, but that was the play. If people are thinking of the game, they run a toss play, and it's Calvin Anderson next to Pharaoh Brown. And Pharaoh Brown's only been here a couple weeks. Both of those players they both pull, basically. And then somebody runs right through that gap. I think it was Javon Holland. It was. Yeah. Runs right through and takes him down for a 4-yard loss. So to me, and I do think the rest of the play was blocked well. So to me, my interpretation of that was Pharaoh Brown screwed up. That because if you watch, Calvin Anderson does a drop step with his right foot. Means like he's giving ground to get around basically Pharaoh Brown's supposed to block down on Javon Holland. It's a pin pull thing where Pharaoh Brown blocks down, Calvin Anderson goes around him, and I do think they have a pretty decent play. They at least pick up the first down, but somebody didn't execute that right. I think it was Brown, but I can't be certain about that. But you know, there were definitely a few play calls in this game that I wrote down, like in the first quarter, 1st and 10 at the New England 14. Mac Jones pass incomplete, short left to Juju Smith-Schuster. I put call. I don't know if that was one of those bubbles to Juju. Don't ever run like a 40 bubble to Juju. Yeah. I mean, to me, Billy always does something for a reason. And, you know, I've been behind game planning with them, with the Texans, and I understand everything that goes into it. Everything that they have called or the approach that they're going to take, there's a reason to do that. I think they just lacked complete confidence in the offensive line, and that's where they are right now.
AG1 is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it literally every day. I gave AG1 a try because I was tired of buying and taking a million different pills and vitamins. I wanted something quick, convenient, and packed with all the good and essential stuff I needed to get through the day. I drink AG1 first thing in the morning before starting my day, and it makes me feel like I could take on the world. Tastes great, gives me a little boost, and then later on is the big payoff. Off AG1, I'm grinding to get through the day, looking at the clock. On AG1, I'm primed and sharp, especially mentally, for my very long days, especially during training camp. Covering my nutritional basis for the day literally couldn't be any easier, which is why I trust AG1. I just mix one small scoop with water and drink it first thing in the morning. Done. I also like that it costs less than $3 a day. Pretty good if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with high-quality sourced ingredients. Win-win. If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/Bedard. That's drinkag1.com/Bedard. Check it out.
I want to get to Belichick quickly because I have not heard anybody talk about this just yet, but it was a decision that really bothered me. So same drive we're talking about. You're now 4th and 4 from the Miami 46. So you're at the plus 46. You're down 2 touchdowns. 4th and 4. Bill punts.
Yep.
First thing. Ridiculous. Be aggressive. Reminds me of what was going on defensively. Just lacked urgency and aggression in this game. From the coaching staff down to the field, lacked it. 4th and 4, 46-yard line on the plus side. You're down 2 touchdowns. Bill, what do you have to lose, my friend? That's the first thing. Secondly, the inconsistency from the head coach. Greg, you mentioned it. This team doesn't have an identity right now. The head coach doesn't have an identity. In week 1 against Philly, 4th and 8, 4th and 3, 4th and 17, 4th and 12, go, 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 go. When your defense, I thought, actually played better against Philly than it played against Miami, you're looking at a 4th and 4. Week one, Belichick is going for that. Week 2, Belichick is punting. Have some guts. I don't know if you agree with that, but I hated the punt. I hated that decision. Get behind your quarterback here. Get 4 yards and move the damn chains.
Yeah, I had the same thought, Nick, live. I was like, all right, they had lost, so they went no gain minus 4 yards, and it's 4th and 4 or 4th and 5 at that point in the game book. And I was just thinking, like, go for it. I mean, you're down 17-3. You stop them to start the second half. Like, what's the harm? And we also, speaking of Belichick inconsistency, we might as well have the Demario Douglas discussion now.
Oh God.
And if I start to yell, I'm sorry, but it's his decision to bench Demario Douglas and just in general in this game, Nick, seeing some of it on TV. I got sort of like Bill Belichick, late Don Shula sort of vibes, like old man on the sideline barking, like, nothing's going right. Like, but the Demario Douglas thing, like, it's a complete joke. One of the Dolphins, a prominent Dolphins defender, told me after the game, he's like, Demario Douglas is the only good player on that offense. And Bill took him out of the game. Why? The kid, even when I coach, I tell the kids, I said, look, if you make an aggressive mistake, that's okay. You make a mistake being careless or what have you, then we might have a problem. But if you're being aggressive and you make a mistake, all right, that happens. At least you're trying to make a play. The kid tried to make a play. He did earlier in the game. He did on that. That stop out of nowhere and then speed back up. You're like, holy crap. Like, the Patriots have a guy who can make somebody miss. And then, Bradley Chubb came from behind and made a play. That's a good player. Dolphins gave up a lot to get him. It's going to happen. It wasn't like Demario Douglas was like, carrying the ball like a loaf of bread or holding it out or whatever, and it got knocked away. Bradley Chubb just made a better play. Maybe because he's like 6'5" and 290 pounds, and Demario Douglas is like 5'6" and 180 pounds. But here's my thing about Demario Douglas. He shouldn't even be on the field. The only reason he is on the field, that a 6th-round pick out of Liberty is playing Sunday Night Football in his second NFL game, is because Bill Belichick left this roster so damn thin on offense that they have no choice but to put this kid on the field. And I love Demario Douglas, and I think he's real, and I think he's earned being out there. But Bill you can't penalize the kid for your mistake. It's your mistake that you didn't get enough on offense, that you got to, put 6th-round picks out there. It wasn't an egregious mistake. The kid just made a mistake. Ezekiel Elliott fumbled in the first freaking game. Does he get benched? No. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's like Bill is just so inconsistent. I don't know if he's starting to forget things, but like, it's starting to get to the point where it's a joke. Like, some of Bill's decisions and how he does this and doesn't do this, and he gets up to the podium after the game, and he's just like, not much to say about that. Oh, really? You fall to 0-2 at home? You've lost 7 of 9, and there's nothing to say about it? Like, what are we doing here with this team? As Julian Edelman would say on Inside the NFL. What are we doing? Like, seriously. Cut your nose to spite your face. I mean, Demario Douglas, you needed him. He's the only guy who can make anybody miss. He's the only guy who could take one of these short little crappy plays which they can run. It's the only thing that can run right now, and he can go 80 yards for a touchdown. Freaking Devontae Parker stinks. Juju stinks. Yeah, I don't hear any of the receivers mouthing off about stink, stank, stunk right now. I mean, Juju is terrible at this point. Juju Sanu's probably being kind. Like, and you benched Demario Douglas? Like, what the F are we doing around here? Like, seriously.
It's ridiculous. You mentioned the inconsistency again. The inconsistencies on 4th down decision-making the last 2 weeks, the inconsistency how you handle Zeke and Demario Douglas, and people might say, yeah, but he's a rookie. It was a very good play by Chubb. Elliott was more careless than Douglas was with the football on their fumbles. What did Demario Douglas do that was so wrong and sinful against the game of football on Sunday where the young dude had to get benched? Couple points. Number one, you didn't play him a lot in the preseason, Bill. What did he get? 5 snaps on offense in the preseason? And now he fumbles the football, and now you're going to actually get mad at him when you didn't have him out on the field playing against the live bullets in the preseason when he's a 6th-round pick and a rookie? That's on you, Bill. That ain't on Pop. That's on you. Secondly, why the hell is he returning punts then? Bill pointed this out and said, well, after the non-answers, which I totally agree with you, and I tweeted this out at Nick C Radio, that doesn't work anymore, okay? But the Bill Belichick snorting and getting all, chapped ass with the media because, God forbid, somebody asks you why you bench the only explosive offensive player that you have right now. That doesn't work anymore when you've gone 2-7 in your last 9 games. You no longer get the benefit of the doubt, Bill. Those days are over, my friend. And you need to take accountability as the head coach and tell the fans why you decided to bench the only explosive offensive player. But Bill used it and said, well, he was still out there returning punts. Why? You didn't trust him as a receiver for the rest of the game. And don't give me this. I know they're trying to cover Bill's ass here, but don't give me he wasn't in the packages. They said the same thing about Juju in week 1, the packages. Put him in more packages. He deserves to be in more packages then. Package. Put him in a package. Have him in every package if you need to. He's the only dude that got wiggle. He's the only receiver that has wiggle out there. Put him in more packages, Bill and Bill O'Brien. But if you don't trust him with the ball in his hands on the field, but you trust him in catching punts, which I think is more difficult than running with the football, what? I'm taking crazy pills. And it's just, it is so, imagine being Mac, because people said after the game, like, oh, Mac said a little extra about Pop Douglas. Yeah, just imagine being Mac Jones, okay, right now. Like, your offensive line sucks. They can't pass protect. You're getting guys running at you every single snap, pretty much. You have no run game to go to take a breath. You have receivers that can't separate when you're trying to run a quick pass game because your O-line sucks. And then the one receiver who actually can separate and give you some yak, your head coach benches them because a veteran defensive player makes a very good play. After what happened last year with the offensive staff, Mac Jones, honestly, he should go out there and be like, is anybody paying attention to this BS? Well, what do you expect from me? All right, we got a couple of quick notes on the defense coming up.
With the busy fall season already in swing, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help fuel you up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. First of all, I got an email saying, like, be on the lookout for it when it was delivered. It was ready to go. You could tell that it was fresh. These guys know what they're doing. Too busy to cook this fall, but want to make sure you're eating well. With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, the prepping, the cleaning too, while still getting flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's never frozen fresh meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy and get back to crushing your goals. I loved, this was my favorite one, loaded bacon shredded chicken with sauteed spinach, green beans, and ranch sour cream. This only has 650 calories. I got the keto option to keep with my diet. There are so many options over there. Basically anything you want to do in terms of dietary restrictions, they can do it. You got to check it out. Head to factormeals.com/Bedard50. That's code Bedard50, BEDARD 50 at factormeals.com/Bedard50 to get 50% off.
All right, let's get to the defense quickly, Greg. One question I had for you. The way the Patriots approached the game defensively, which you talked about earlier, how much did that have to do with Jonathan Jones not being active and then Marcus Jones going down during the game?
Zero.
Okay.
I mean, that they came out with, I think their plan, their big wrinkle was, their big thing was, okay, we're going to come out with basically 3 deep safeties, sort of like an umbrella defense. And the Dolphins aren't going to expect that. That's going to trip them up. And Dolphins go right down the field. So, they played a little bit more man coverage as they had to do with when the score became like it did. But I don't think that had anything to do with anything in this game. I thought Miles Bryant, for the most part, was fine. He gave up a deep pass to Jalen Waddle, but that was a dime throw and a dime catch. Talk about, a receiver going up and making a play. And what do you expect? That's a first-round receiver against a undrafted free agent safety / cornerback or whatever. The one sort of point I wanted to make about the defense. It's funny when the Patriots were winning games all the time, people would say stats are for losers. Now the Patriots aren't winning on the field and they're trying to find other ways to win. And now they point to, points allowed, or we didn't do, the defense did their part, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, but the Patriots did not stop the Dolphins in this game. For the most part, the Dolphins stopped themselves. First drive, Tua fell on 3rd down. Led to a field goal. They were on like the 3-yard line.
I hate to laugh, but he literally
He fell.
He rolled his ankle on the drop back and just
the guy was open in the flat. He might have scored, and they might have gone for it if it was close enough. Second drive, touchdown. Third drive, Tua missed throws on second and third down that were there. He just missed them. Fourth drive, touchdown. Second half, opening drive. This was the first time the Patriots made a play in the game. They actually did a nice job where they doubled Waddle and they hit Tyreek Hill off the line, and that led to a Judon coverage sack. So that was nice. Sixth drive, Dolphins were driving, holding penalty leads to 1st and 20, blocked field goal. They probably should have had, 3 points there. Seventh drive, Waddle dropped, and then Hill tripped on third down. Eighth drive, badly underthrown INT by Tua. He was open. Gonzalez, great job high pointing the ball, great catch, but his technique was not good on the play. His hips were all wrong, and if Tua throws that ball on a line, it's probably a touchdown. But, good result. Ninth drive, Mostert touchdown on first down. They don't even touch the guy. He goes through the defense like Swiss cheese.
That was awful.
10th drive, Tua fumbles the snap on, I think it was 3rd and 1, and McDaniel said he was going to go on 4th down, but because he fumbled the snap, I think they lost 3 yards. They missed the field goal, and that was it. I mean, the Patriots didn't do anything to me on defense. It was just, they're hoping the other team makes big mistakes. The Dolphins made a few mistakes. That's why the score wasn't worse than it was. I mean, the Dolphins should have had at least another 6 points with the blocked field goal and the missed field goal. So that's what I have to say about the defense.
Yeah, I tweeted out that Mac Jones was the reason why the Patriots were competitive in that game. If he wasn't the quarterback, they would have been humiliated. And I got pushback from a few people on X saying, the defense and special teams. If Mac doesn't play in that game, if you have somebody who's worse than Mac, if you have a quarterback that sucks, as some people say, Mac does, you're looking at 30-6 in that game. You're looking at like 36-6. It's a walk away from Miami. It's not even a game by the beginning of midpoint of third quarter. It's just done. It's over. All right. Check out BSJ. The fellas doing great work there. $50 for the year. Bedard and Giardi tag team and Patriots coverage. Let's quickly go through 3 up, 3 down. Greg, first, you're 3 up.
So I'm going to do this a little bit to troll Bill, but Demario Douglas is my number one. No, I can't do that. He only played like 6 snaps. I really want to do it. So I'm going to go with Matthew Judon. He was the most impactful guy on defense. Half a sack, a hit, a hurry, a stuff. I didn't have him for any negative plays, so good job from Judon. And,
all right.
should I just give?
Give your 3. Okay. Give your next 2. Just run through them.
I'm going to go Mac, number 2. I thought he had a really good game, and I'll go Christian Gonzalez with the interception. He wasn't perfect in this game. He does cover really, really well. He really does. He can run a little bit with Tyreek Hill, even though, he didn't get a ton of chances one-on-one to do that. But, so far, 2 games into his career, good stuff.
I had Mac. I had Gonzalez on my list, and I'll throw in Brendan Schooler just because the epic field goal block. Yeah. All right, 3 down.
Calvin Anderson. I had him for 6 total quarterback pressures in this game. Run stuff. He was bad. Micah Wenu, only gave up 2 pressures, but he really wasn't good in this game, and he only played 46 snaps, so his rating was a lot lower than some of the other guys who played all 74 snaps. And let's see. I'm gonna go. Let's see. Kendrick Bourne. I'm gonna go Devon Godchow. They moved him to end. I'm talking about another questionable decision on the defense. Like, they decided to put Daniel Ekuwale at nose tackle a lot in this game. And, of course, on the 43-yard touchdown run, he gets completely washed out. And, I mean, he wasn't the only. Bentley was bad on that play. Jabril Peppers was bad on that play.
Duggar took a bad angle.
Duggar has to, that's where Devin McCourty makes, at least for most of his career, maybe not last year, because I do think I remember him missing a play like that. But Kyle Duggar has to be there. He took a terrible angle. He has to be the guy that brings them down or at least slows them up. And he didn't even lay a finger on the guy.
Yeah, my list looks similar to yours. I had a Guale, I had Godchow, kind of split those two into one. Calvin Anderson was on my list. He was brutal. And I don't want to put too much on to Calvin Anderson. I don't know what the illness was that he dealt with. It's pretty, by the way he described it, sounded pretty serious. I'm going to give him a couple more weeks to maybe round into shape. Dude didn't play in the preseason. He wasn't out there in camp, and now he's got to deal with stuff. So, but he wasn't good. He's on the down list. And Cole Strange was on my down list as well. Got a little better as the game went on, but first half was rough for Cole Strange. And if you're going to draft a guard in the first round, he best be really good. And he wasn't really good. All right, the episode brought to you by Fanduel, exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. New customers get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. He's Greg, I'm Nick. Coming up later in the week, we preview Jets and Dolphins, Jets and Patriots. But until then, try to deal with the suffering.
Ever wish you could navigate the betting field with the confidence of a pro? Patriots Press Pass listeners get a 30-day free trial. Elevate your game day and join the smart betting revolution. Go get it at oddsr.com/presspass. That's oddsr.com/presspass.